hearing for this evening is Charles Yedlin. This is continued from October 20th of this year. It was preliminary and final major site plan with variances. The address is 900 Herrontown Road, Block 901, Lot 21. And let's see, maybe Mr. Solo, you'd fill us in where we stopped on this and where we're going at this point.
Thank you. Alan, do you need to swear me in, or under oath from before? Not working?
Are you already sworn in? Why don't we'll swear everybody
In again?
again. The swearing never lasts more than 30 days. It wears out unless you cluster it. Then you can get 45 days. Mr. Solo, do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully?
I do.
Good. Why don't we swear in Mr. Bridger, Mr.
Same time.
Gentlemen, you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this matter?
I do.
And Mr. Letizia, Mr. Yedlin, and Mr. Shiamak, I keep butchering your name, I'm sorry. You all, when you testify, swear to testify truthfully?
Yes, I do.
I do.
Anybody else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. The board heard this application on October 20th, and an issue was raised during that hearing regarding the applicability of Section 10B 304 and 307, which requires a 50-foot buffer between residential and non-residential development. The original plan that you were reviewing that night provided a 20-foot setback, and it has been determined that the ordinance does indeed require the 50%. I've put up on the board it's called a site plan exhibit sheet A1 and labeled it PB1. It's a color drawing, you'll all have it in your packet, of what the applicant has proposed since that meeting. As requested by the board, the applicant met with the adjacent property owners, the Old Orchard Development, and he's come back with a revised concept plan. The plan that's before you provides
Just to be clear, how did you mark this?
PB1. We already have a PB1 in this, so it should be
At
two.
least one, yeah. So this is the next PB.
PB1 was the original application from October 20th. Did I have two in? Two reports. So you want me to call this three? I'm going to run out of ink. What the plan does is provide a 40-foot buffer on the applicant's property, and that's shown here, and then 10 feet of an enhanced buffer on the adjacent property. Let me orient everybody. It maintains the same orientation as a month ago or so. Herrontown Road is at the top to the north, Mount Lucas to the right to the east, Old Orchard Lane is to the bottom. There are some townhouses located on the south side of Old Orchard and some on to the north and east of the property. Route 206 would be just off the map. Adjacent to the proposed building is an office building also owned by the applicant. Across the street on Herrontown Road is Princeton House, and then across the street on Mount Lucas are single-family homes as well. So in order to effectuate this change, what the applicant has done is the building and the parking was moved 20 feet to the north. It's all been shifted to provide that 40-foot buffer. And then additional evergreen trees to supplement the existing trees are shown in the buffer area as well. So the area in here is the 40 feet. And what he's proposed and has permission from Old Orchard Development is to add additional landscaping on the Old Orchard side, and that would make up an additional 10 feet to provide, in effect, the 50-foot buffer. There are also trees, shrubs, understories being proposed in the northwest corner of the site to provide some additional buffer for the townhouses on lots 13, 12, and 11 from the development. So you have a buffer running along Old Orchard Lane with the buffer for the homes on the opposite side of Old Orchard, and then some enhanced landscaping for the townhouses that I just mentioned. In addition to those changes, at our meeting on the 20th, we asked for a couple of small changes, and the applicant has been able to accommodate those, and they're shown on the plan. He relocated some of the handicap parking to the rear of the site, and a 5-foot sidewalk was requested that takes you from Herringtown into the site to get to the door as well, and that's been proposed on this plan. The bicycle rack location has been revised. It's still in the southwest corner, but its configuration has been enlarged slightly. They're still proposing just one bike rack, but there's now adequate room to provide a second bike rack if demand warrants it. And then finally, the trash and recycling enclosure, if you recall, which was located in the northwest corner of the site, has been moved a little bit closer to the property line and to the adjacent office building. The trash and recycling area now is 14.7 feet. It was 20 feet, and the emergency generator is now 15.8 feet, excuse me, instead of the 19 feet. So that changes some of the variances that you're going to, if you approve this application, you're being granted. The first is that side yard setback, 60 feet is required, and again, their applicant is now asking for 15.8 feet for the generator and 14.7 for the trash enclosure. As before, 10B-283 required 2 loading spaces. One is proposed, and again, it's located in the southwest corner of the lot. It's been enlarged slightly, but there's just one proposed and 2 are required. There's a variance request as before from 10B-284 for the parking stall dimension. 9 by 19 is required. The applicant is proposing 19 compact spaces that would be 8 by 16 feet. And then finally, the variance from 10B-304 and 307, which requires, as I indicated, a 50-foot landscape buffer, and the applicant is proposing 40 feet with the added 10 feet on Old Orchard Lane, but does necessitate the variance because they're not providing the full 50 feet. As we indicated at the last meeting, the location of the trash enclosure and the emergency generator appear to be appropriate. In abut non-residential uses, the screening would mitigate any impact from that variance, the staff believes. The testimony that was provided at the October 20th meeting on the loading area and for the compact cars remains. Staff had no objection at the last meeting to those variances as well. The proposed enhanced screening on Old Orchard property should mitigate any of the negative impacts from the variance for the buffer area. By way of comments on this, you'll see that we've asked in the revised report that all the comments or requirements in the staff reports from the October meeting be continued, and if you approve this, that all of those, and I believe the applicant agreed to all of those conditions in those reports be included. We've also asked, this plan is conceptual in nature. If you approve it, we suggest that revised plans be submitted to Mr. West for the municipal land use engineer to review all the details regarding grading and stormwater. We don't anticipate that there's going to be major changes, but that if the board is comfortable with the concept plan, that he review that. We've also suggested, because landscaping and buffering are big issues, that the landscape plan go to the landscape subcommittee for a final review. In addition to that, we're recommending that when the landscape subcommittee meets, that we notify the Old Orchard development and probably do something which we've done occasionally, which is an on-site meeting so that we can actually locate with stakes in the ground where the evergreens are going to go. We found that's an effective way, because sometimes just moving a planting a couple of feet when you're trying to specifically buffer some homes from parking and lights can make a big difference. So we would suggest that if you approve it, you include that in your resolution. And then finally, if you approve it, there is a concern about ensuring that the plantings on Old Orchard remain healthy and are taken care of for a while, and what we would suggest that both the performance bond and the maintenance guarantee for the office building include the landscaping that's going to be on Old Orchard. And what that really means is the performance guarantee is submitted prior to construction. It ensures the construction and installation of all the public, quasi-public improvements, the parking lot, the landscaping, the lighting, and such. And that usually, that construction period is anywhere from a few months to a year, something like this. We're probably looking at a few months to 6 months for construction. And then after everything is complete, the engineer goes and makes an inspection. It goes to the municipal council for release of that performance guarantee. So it's usually a one-year process. Its performance guarantee is released usually on condition of a maintenance guarantee. That maintenance guarantee has a minimum of a 2-year period. So what we're really doing is trying to build in that the trees be covered with some sort of guarantee for a 2 to 3, maybe even a 4-year period, which should ensure that they're fairly well established and remain there, because I think it's critical for the Old Orchard Lane development to have that buffer. That's a summary of the staff comments. Jack or Derek, did you want to add anything, or did I leave anything out?
I think you got everything.
Anything else?
I don't know if the board has questions for me, or if you want me to turn it over to the applicant.